Alright, part 2 to this advanced Astro book, 55 pages long, crafted with the help of Perplexity AI Agent. Shout out. Please like, subscribe, comment, share if you dare and care with peace and love. Check out part 1 and let's continue onwards. So chapter 10, we're talking about new aspects and their theories, original framework. Alright, so original esoteric framework proposed in this text. The aspects described in this chapter are original proposals of this textbook. They are not part of the established astrological tradition, but are offered as coherent extensions of harmonic theory. Each is derived from a specific harmonic division of the circle and assign a symbolic meaning consistent with that harmonic's character. They should be used experimentally alongside traditional aspects. Pardon me. So, the following aspects extend the harmonic series beyond the traditional minor aspects, drawing on divisions that have been underutilized or unrecognized in standard practice. Each is grounded in the mathematical logic of circle division and assigned meaning through the symbolic character of its harmonic number. So midpoint formula, A/B equals, in parentheses, A plus B divided by 2. So let's talk about the decile, 36 degrees, the 10th harmonic. The exact degree is 36 degrees. Harmonic basis, 360 degrees divided by 10. Orb, 1 degrees. Symbolic theory, the 10th harmonic relates to manifestation, structure, and the crystallization of energy into material form. The decile represents a subtle but persistent drive to organize, systematize, and bring into concrete expression the combined energies of the two planets. Its natal meaning indicates an innate capacity for structured achievement in the domains ruled by the two planets. Transit meaning, a period of organizational focus and material consolidation, and strongest when involving Saturn, Mercury, or the MC. The undecile, 32 degrees 44, the 11th harmonic. So the exact degree, 32 degrees 44, 360 degrees divided by 11, orb of 0 degrees 45 is symbolic theory. The 11th harmonic, being a prime number beyond the traditional series, represents transcendence of established patterns and the emergence of new paradigms. The undecile indicates a subtle impulse toward innovation and the breaking of conventional frameworks. Its natal meaning points to areas where the native instinctively thinks outside conventional structures. The transit meaning, unexpected breakthrough or paradigm shift, and strongest when involving Uranus, Mercury, or the ascendant. The tridecile is 27 degrees 41, 13th harmonic. So it's 360 degrees divided by 13 is an orb, 0 degrees 40. In symbolic theory, the 13th harmonic represents transformation through dissolution and renewal, the alchemical process of salt et coagula. The tridecile indicates a deep, often unconscious process of dismantling old structures to make way for new forms. And we have the natal meaning here indicates areas of profound transformative potential that may manifest through crises and renewal cycles. Transit meaning a period of deep structural change, and strongest when involving Pluto, Saturn, or the IC. The Vigentile, 18 degrees, 20th harmonic. So 360 degrees divided by 20. Then orb of 0 degrees 30. Symbolic theory here, the 20th harmonic represents the finest division of energy into its most subtle, refined expression. The Vigentile indicates a highly sensitive, almost imperceptible attunement between two planetary energies. A connection that operates both conscious awareness, but shapes the native's intuitive responses. Natal meaning indicates finely tuned sensitivity in the domains of the two planets. The transit meaning a period of heightened intuition and subtle attunement. Strongest when involving Neptune, the moon, or the ascendant. Already. So, this is a long one. The Quatuor decile. Okay? The 14th harmonic. Exact degree here, 25 degrees 43, so we're doing 360 degrees divided by 14. Orb of 0 degrees 35. And symbolic theory here, the 14th harmonic combines the qualities of the second duality and 7th spiritual imperative harmonics. It represents the integration of spiritual purpose through polarized experience, learning soul lessons through the tension of opposites. And its natal meaning indicates a life theme of learning through the balancing of opposing forces. Transit meaning a period of spiritually significant opposition and eventual synthesis. and strongest when involving the lunar nose, Saturn, or Jupiter. Aspect resonance theory. This text proposes that the power of any aspect is proportional to the simplicity of its harmonic. The lower the harmonic number, the stronger and more visible the effect. Thus, the conjunction, first harmonic, is the most powerful, followed by the opposition. Let's color code. Oopsies. Second, trine is the third, square is the fourth, and so on. Okay. Higher harmonic aspects, the 10th and above, are subtle and require either exactitude within a very tight orb, involvement of a luminary or angle, or activation by transit or progression to become manifest. Additionally, this text proposes the concept of harmonic stacking when multiple aspects of the same harmonic family appear in a chart. For example, multiple quintile family aspects. The harmonics theme becomes a dominant motif in the native's life, even if individual aspects are within tight orbs. Alright, on to chapter 11, orb theory and application. So, let's put this right there. An orb is the range of angular deviation within which an aspect is considered effective. And the Sun at 15 degrees Aries and Mars at 12 degrees Aries are in conjunction with the 3 degrees orb. Let's color code that to make sure you guys understand. Sun at 15 degrees Aries, okay, and Mars at 12 degrees Aries are in conjunction with a 3 degrees orb. The question of how large orbs should be is one of the most debated topics in astrology. And this chapter presents both the traditional consensus and original extensions. Traditional orb guidelines. So traditional astrology assigns larger orbs to the luminaries, and it assigns smaller orbs to the outer planets, reflecting their relative importance. And the following are commonly accepted orb ranges. So we got our planetary bodies, our conjunction, opposition, trine, square, and sextile. So for example, when we talk about orbs, the Sun, we see usually 10 degrees for conjunction, 10 degrees for opposition, 8 degrees for trine, 8 degrees for square, and 6 degrees for sextile. For the Moon, we see 10 degrees conjunction, 10 degrees opposition, 8 degrees trine, 8 degrees square, 6 degrees sextile. Same as the Moon, Sun and Moon are hand in hand. Very interesting. And then we see Mercury, 7 degrees conjunction, 7 degrees opposition, 6 degrees trine, 6 degrees square, 4 degrees sextile. It's the same as Venus. It's the same as Mars. So we see patterns here, and then Jupiter, 9 degrees conjunction, 9 degrees opposition, 7 degrees trine, 7 degrees square, 5 degrees sextile. Saturn, 8 degrees conjunction, 8 degrees opposition, 6 degrees trine, 6 degrees square, 4 degrees sextile. Uranus, 5 degrees conjunction, 5 degrees opposition, 4 degrees trine, 4 degrees square, 3 degrees sextile. Neptune, 5 degrees conjunction, 5 degrees opposition, 4 degrees trine, 4 degrees square, 3 degrees sextile. And Pluto, 4 degrees conjunction, 4 degrees opposition, 3 degrees trine, 3 degrees square, and 2 degrees sextile. Alrighty. So orb reduction for minor aspects. Minor aspects, such as the semi-sextile, as well as the semi-square, and sesquiquadrate, and quincunx, are generally given orbs of 1 degree through 2 degrees with the tighter end preferred. Quintile family aspects receive orbs of 1 degrees through 1.5 degrees. The higher harmonic aspects proposed in Chapter 10 should be given very tight orbs of 0.5 degrees through 1 degrees to ensure their subtlety does not dilute into noise. Orb theory for angles. So when we talk about angles, specifically the ascendant, midheaven, descendant, and imum coli, are extremely sensitive and can perceive wider orbs. Traditionally, a planet within 8 degrees through 10 degrees of an angle is considered angular. This text proposed angular resonance theory extends these orbs specifically for conjunctions. Alright, orb theory for fixed stars. Fixed stars are traditionally given very tight orbs, 1 degree for first magnitude stars, and 0.5 degrees for lesser magnitudes. While some practitioners extend to 2 degrees for the brightest stars like Sirius, Canopus, Arcturus, the tightness reflects the concentrated focused nature of fixed star influence, which is best expressed through exact conjunctions. Alright, applying versus separating aspects. So an applying aspect is one where the faster moving planet is approaching the exact aspect degree. And a separating aspect is one where the faster planet has already moved over past the exact degree. Okay? So applying aspects are generally considered more powerful. They represent energy building toward manifestation, while the separating aspects represent energy that has already peaked and is now integrating. In natal charts, the exactness of an applying aspect suggests that the theme is still developing in the native's life. A separating aspect suggests a theme that was active at birth and is now being processed. Mutual reception and dispositorship in aspects. So, when two planets in aspect are in each other's ruling signs, for example, Mars in Libra and Venus in Aries, they are said to be in mutual reception. This condition strengthens the aspect and creates a channel of mutual support between the two planets, even if the aspect itself is challenging. And I know that sounds confusing, but mutual reception effectively allows each planet to operate as if it were in its own domicile, giving it additional dignity and resources. Variable orb theory. So, this text proposes that orbs should not be fixed per planet, but should vary based on 3 factors. The first is the harmonic of the aspect. Lower harmonics get larger orbs. Second is the angularity of the planets involved. Angular planets get larger orbs than cadent ones. And third is the sect of the planets. Planets in their preferred sect, diurnal planets in day charts, nocturnal and night charts, get larger orbs. So our formula, effective orb equals base orb multiplied by 1, adding angularity bonus, adding sect bonus. And when I say R or we, I'm talking about the help of my AI agent, using my idea and running with it and crafting something that I could produce and show you guys and teach you something in regards to astrology. So, angularity bonus, we add 0.3 for angular, we add 0.15 for sextant, and add 0 for cadent. Sect bonus, adding 0.2 when the planet is in sect, and when it is not, when out of sect, negative 0.1. And for example, we see Sun 10 degrees base in an angular house, adding 0.3, and a day chart, adding 0.2, so equals 10 multiplied by 1.5 equals 15 degrees orb for conjunctions. Alright. We got a lot of videos to make, so I'm trying to get through this one too, but we're not even near finished because we have so much to talk about. Decanates. Alright, chapter 12. Decanate foundations and rulers. Alright. Each zodiac sign of 30 degrees is divided into 3 decanates or decans of 10 degrees each. The decanate system adds a layer of refinement to sign interpretation. So a planet at 5 degrees Aries is in the first decanate of Aries, while a planet at 25 degrees Aries is in the third decanate. Each decanate has its own planetary ruler, sub-ruler, that modifies the expression of the sign's primary ruler. The elemental triplicity decanate system. The decanate system used in this textbook assigns sub-rulers based on the triplicity elemental grouping of each sign. In this framework, the first decanate of each sign is ruled by the sign's primary ruler. Excuse me. The second decanate is ruled by the ruler of the next sign in the same element. And the third decanate is ruled by the ruler of the third sign in that element. This creates an internally consistent elemental progression within each sign. This triplicity-based system is one of several decanate traditions. The classical Chaldean phase system, used in Hellenistic and medieval astrology, assigns decanate rulers following the Chaldean planetary order. Saturn, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting the color code. Sorry guys. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, Venus, Mercury, Moon, beginning from the ruler of the first decanate of Aries, Mars, and cycling through all 7 planets. Triplicity system used here is simpler and more intuitive for modern practice as it keeps sub-rulers within the same element of family. Both systems are valid. Practitioners should choose the one that resonates with their interpretive style. Next, we see a complete decanate rulership table, which is also very helpful. The sign, first decan, through the second decan, and third decan. So, for example, Aries, in that first decan we see is Mars, second decan turns into Sun, and then it goes into Jupiter, in the third decan. And this is just what we'll see in the personality traits and just like how it manifests archetypally. So Taurus from Venus to Mercury to Saturn, Gemini to Mercury to Venus to Uranus, Cancer, Moon to Mars to Jupiter, Leo, Sun to Jupiter to Mars, Virgo from Mercury to Saturn to Venus, Libra from Venus to Uranus to Mercury, Scorpio from Mars to Jupiter to Moon, and then Sagittarius from Jupiter to Mars to Sun, Capricorn from Saturn to Venus to Mercury, Aquarius from Uranus to Mercury to Venus, and Pisces, Jupiter to the Moon to Mars. So a note here, the table above uses modern rulership assignments: Uranus for Aquarius, Mars for Scorpio, with Pluto as co-ruler. Traditionalists may substitute Saturn for Uranus and use Mars as the sole ruler of Scorpio. The triplicity decanate framework remains the same regardless of which rulership scheme is preferred. Alright, decanate symbolism in the Egyptian phases. In the Hermetic tradition, each decanate was associated with a specific face or phase, an image derived from Egyptian star lore that carries its own symbolic meaning. These faces were originally linked to 36 decanal deities, each with specific attributes, materials, gemstone, plant, metal, and bodily correspondences through melodesia. While the full system of Egyptian decan names is complex and varies across sources, the essential principle is that each decanate adds a specific qualitative flavor to the sign's overall character. Alright, natal planets and decanates. The decanate placement of each natal planet adds a crucial layer of nuance to chart interpretation. A planet in the first decanate of its sign expresses the sign's energy in its purest, most direct form, colored by the sign's primary ruler, remembering 0 degrees through 10 degrees of that sign. A planet in the second decanate expresses the sign's energy through the lens of the next sign in the same element, adding a secondary quality, and that would of course be 10 degrees through 20 degrees. And a planet in the third decanate, 20 degrees through 30 degrees, expresses through the third sign of the element, completing the elemental cycle. The 3 decanate expressions of Aries. We're going to go sign by sign here. So the first decan of Aries, 0 through 10 degrees. Mars, pure Martian Aries energy, is pioneering, impulsive, courageous, and direct. The most extroverted and physically active expression of Aries is strong drive for individual achievement. The second decan, 10 through 20 degrees. The Sun, Leo influence Aries, is proud, dramatic, creative, leadership-oriented. The native seeks recognition and expressiveness through Aries action, a more theatrical and self-aware expression, but also very, very egotistical. We're thinking about Sun exalted, and it's a very, very hot planet. Third decan, 20 degrees through 30 degrees. Jupiter, Sagittarius influence Aries, expansive, philosophical, adventurous, visionary. The drive is directed toward exploration, meaning in the pursuit of big ideas, a more expansive and idealistic expression. Okay. Decanate effects on each planet. So the same principle applies to every planet. The following table summarizes the decanate influence on planetary expression for each sign using the elemental subruler framework. So first we have the Sun. The decanate refines the ego expression. We see the first decan for the Sun's pure sign expression, while the second decan adds the quality of the next sign in the element. Third decan adds the quality of the third sign in the element. And this is, for example, a Sun in the second decan of Cancer, Mars Scorpio decan. It adds intensity and depth to the otherwise nurturing Cancer expression. Okay? Moon. The decanate modifies the emotional temperament. So Moon in the third decan of Libra, Mercury Gemini decan, adds a mental communicative quality to the Venus-ruled emotional nature, producing someone who processes feelings through dialogue and intellectual analysis. Mercury through Pluto. Each planet's function is similarly refined by its decanate placement. Mars in the first decan of Scorpio, Mars is intensely focused and transformative. While in the second decan, Jupiter Pisces, it becomes more idealistic and spiritually driven. And in the third decan, Moon Cancer, it channels its drive through emotional intensity and protective instinct. Decanate effects on the angles. The ascendant decanate is particularly important as it modifies the entire chart's outward expression. An ascendant in the first decan of a sign presents the purest form of that sign's personality. Okay? As we've been saying, the second decan adds depth or complexity, while the third decan adds completion and synthesis. The MC's decanate similarly modifies the vocational expression and public persona. Decanate angle quick reference. Very, very cool here. So, as we can see, we go over the ascendants, first, second, and third, and then we also go over the midheavens. So, for example, the first decan of the ascendant is direct expression of the rising sign. What you see is what you get. The ascendant second decan is layered expression. The personality has visible depth and complexity. Third decan of the ascendant is synthesized expression. The personality integrates multiple influences into a unique presentation. The midheaven first decan's career path follows the sign's primary ruler directly. The second decan of the midheaven is career involves a secondary field or specialization. And the third decan of the midheaven is career culminates in a multifaceted or synthesizing role. Alright, aspect decanates. Proposed in this text, the concept of aspect decanates is an original proposal of this textbook. It extends the decanate system from individual planetary placements to the relationships between planets, that is, to the aspects themselves. This framework provides a method for interpreting the quality of an aspect based on the zodiacal position of the midpoint degree and the decanates of both endpoint planets. So let's get into this concept here of aspect decanates. Every aspect between two planets has a midpoint degree, the point halfway between them on the zodiac. This midpoint falls in a specific sign and decanate. The sign and decanate of the midpoint modify the nature of the aspect itself, providing a qualitative quote-unquote flavor that colors how the aspect manifests. Additionally, each planet occupies its own decanate, and the interaction between the two endpoint decanates and the midpoint decanate creates a threefold interpretive structure. So we have our aspect midpoint equals planet A longitude, adding planet B longitude divided by 2, and midpoint decanate equals floor, midpoint degree mode 30, divided by 10, adding 1. Interpretive framework here. The aspect decanate framework considers 3 factors, okay? First being endpoint A decanate, the decanate of the first planet, indicating how that planet's energy is expressed. Endpoint B decanate, the decanate of the second planet, indicating how its energy is expressed. And midpoint decanate, the decanate of the midpoint degree, indicating the field or medium through which the aspect operates. When all 3 decanates share the same elemental quality, for example, all fire decanates, the aspect is said to be elementally resonant and its expression is particularly pure and powerful. When the decanates span different elements, the aspect manifests through mixed elemental conditions, creating a more complex but potentially more creative expression. A worked example here. Consider a trine between Sun at 5 degrees Leo and Jupiter at 7 degrees Sagittarius. So the Sun is in the first decan of Leo, Mars, Aries, decan pure fire, and Jupiter is in the first decan of Sagittarius, Jupiter, Sagittarius, decan pure fire. The midpoint is at 135 degrees, adding 247 degrees divided by 2 equals 191 degrees equals 11 degrees Libra, which falls in the second decan of Libra, Uranus, Aquarius, decan, air. In the interpretation here, the Sun-Jupiter trine operates through an Aries to Sagittarius fire resonance, both endpoints and first fire decans, but The midpoint falls in an air decan, Aquarius, and this suggests that the creative and expansive potential of this trine manifests through intellectual or social innovation. The natural warmth and optimism of the fire trine is channeled through Aquarian originality and group consciousness. The native may express their expansive creative drive through progressive, humanitarian, or unconventional channels. Aspect decanate combinations. So, the following table summarizes the interpretive quality of different midpoint decanate elements. We have our midpoint element and then quality added to the aspect. So, for example, fire, direct, active, creative, pioneering expression. Earth, practical, material, structured, productive expression. Air, mental, communicative, social, conceptual expression. And water, emotional, intuitive, receptive, depth-oriented expression. Decanate Resonance Index. So this text proposes a decanate resonance index, or DRI, for any aspect, calculated as the degree of elemental alignment between the two endpoint decanates and the midpoint decanate. So DRI equals 3, maximum resonance. All three decanates share the same element. The aspect manifests with exceptional clarity and power. DRI equals 2, moderate resonance. 2 of 3 decanates share an element. The aspect has a dominant tone with a modifying influence. DRI equals 1, low resonance. All 3 decanates are in different elements. The aspect manifests through complex, multifaceted expression that requires integration. DRI equals 0, null. 2 endpoint decanates are in opposing elements, fire, water, or earth, air, while the midpoint is in a third. The aspect creates fundamental tension that requires conscious mediation. Alright, midpoint varieties. Let's talk about it. So, direct and indirect midpoints. Concept of midpoints, the halfway point between two celestial bodies, originated in 1675 with Francesco Brunelleschi and Francesco Maria Onorati, 2 students of the famous astrologer Placidus, who introduced the concept of equidistances in an appendix to the 2nd edition of their teacher's work, Physiomathematica. The technique was rediscovered by Albert Niepce in Germany at the beginning of the 20th century and popularized by Alfred Waite through the Hamburg School, Uranian Astrology, and by Reinhold Eberton through Cosmobiology. The midpoint formula, A/B equals longitude A, adding longitude B, divided by 2. Okay, so midpoint is determined by calculating the arithmetic mean of the ecliptic longitudes of 2 planets. For instance, if Mars is at 0 degrees Taurus, 30 degrees, and Venus at 0 degrees Pisces, 330 degrees, we have 30 degrees adding 330 degrees divided by 2, equaling 360 degrees divided by 2, we get 180 degrees equals 0 degrees Libra. This point is the farthest from the 2 planets. The other midpoint directly opposite at 0 degrees Aries is the near midpoint. Most astrologers consider only the midpoint closest to the planets of origin, though both midpoints are valid. Direct midpoints. Direct midpoint is a standard midpoint between any 2 natal planets or points, calculated as the arithmetic mean of their longitudes. When a third planet, angle, or a sensitive point falls on or near this midpoint within approximately 1 degrees, the midpoint is said to be activated, and the 3-body configuration, planet A divided by planet B equals planet C, forms a midpoint picture that is interpreted as a combined expression of all 3 energies. For example, if the Sun-Moon midpoint falls at 15 degrees Taurus and Mercury is at 14 degrees Taurus, the midpoint picture is written as Sun-Moon equals Mercury, interpreted as the native's core identity and emotional nature, Sun-Moon, find expression through communication and intellect, Mercury. A person may be a natural communicator who articulates emotional truths. Indirect reflex midpoints. So, an indirect midpoint, also called a reflex midpoint, is a point directly opposite a direct midpoint, i.e. the direct midpoint adding 180 degrees. While the direct midpoint is usually considered the more significant of the 2, indirect midpoints are also sensitive points that can be activated by transit, progression, or a natal planet. The only situation in which both midpoints are equally significant is when the 2 source planets are in exact opposition, making the 2 midpoints equidistant. Alright, let's talk about the 90 degrees dial, or 90 degree dial. the Hamburg School in Cosmobiology employ a 90-degree dial rather than the traditional 360-degree wheel. Okay? The dial compresses the zodiac so that planets in hard aspect, whether it's conjunction, square opposition, appear in the same or opposite positions on the dial. This makes midpoint structures immediately visible. Okay, so any 3 points aligned on the dial form a midpoint picture. The 90-degree dial is the primary tool of midpoint analysis in both Iranian astrology and cosmobiology. Midpoint interpretation principles. A midpoint represents a synthesis of two planetary energies. Okay, a blended quality that is more than the sum of its parts. When activated by a third body, the combined energy of the two source planets is expressed through the nature of the activating body. The interpretive formula is source A divided by source B equals activation C, read as the combined principle of A and B is expressed through or triggered by C. Standard midpoint orb. Standard orb for midpoint activation is 1 degree. Okay, so some practitioners tighten this to 0.5 degrees for natal work and loosen it to 1.5 degrees for transit work. This text recommends 0.5 degrees to 1 degree for natal midpoint pictures, 1 degree for transiting planets activating natal midpoints, and 0.5 degrees for progressed planets activating natal midpoints. Alrighty. Next, we're going to go over ascendant and midheaven midpoint structures. I think there will be a part 3, if not a part 4 as well, because there's just so much to cover in this this section. So, let's see here. Let's talk about the ascendant and midheaven midpoint structures. So midpoints involving the angles, ascendant and midheaven, are among the most powerful and personally significant midpoint structures in the natal chart. Because the angles represent the most sensitive points in the horoscope, their involvement in midpoint pictures elevates the configuration to a level of primary life importance. The ascendant as midpoint source. So when the ascendant serves as one of the two source points in a midpoint, for example, the ascendant sun equals moon, the midpoint's picture describes how the native's identity and physical presence, which is the ascendant, in combination with the source planet's energy is manifested through the activating body. Okay? So this type of midpoint picture often describes physical characteristics, health patterns, and the way the native is perceived by others. For example, ascendant Mars equals Venus. The native's physical vitality and assertiveness, ascendant Mars, finds expression through Venus, love, beauty, relationship. This might manifest as a person whose physical presence is enhanced by their charm and aesthetic sense, or someone who channels competitive drive into artistic or diplomatic endeavors. Alrighty. The midheaven as midpoint source. When the midheaven serves as a source point, for example, midheaven Jupiter equals Sun, the midpoint picture describes how the native's public standing, vocation, and life direction midheaven, in combination with the source planet's energy, is manifested through the activating body. These midpoint pictures often describe career themes, public reputation, and the native's relationship to authority and achievement. For example, midheaven Saturn equals Mercury. The native's career and public standing, midheaven, combined with Saturn's discipline and structures expressed through Mercury, communication, intellect. This might manifest as a career in writing, teaching, or administrative communication, where the native builds, which is Saturn, a public reputation, midheaven, through intellectual work, Mercury. Right, the ascendant midheaven midpoint. The midpoint between the ascendant and midheaven, or ASC/MC, is itself a highly sensitive point. Represents the synthesis of the two most personal angles, okay? So the self, the ascendant, and the vocation, MC. Any planet conjunct this midpoint within 1 degree represents an energy that bridges the native's personal identity and their life direction. This is a point of incarnation where the soul's purpose meets the personality's expression. Ascendant midheaven equals the ascendant longitude adding the midheaven longitude divided by 2. And angle midpoints. Midpoints between angles themselves create powerful structural axes. For example, the ascendant descendant, the horizon axis midpoint, represents the balance between self and other. Midheaven IC, the meridian axis midpoint, represents the balance between public and private. Ascendant midheaven, the self-location midpoint, represents the bridge between identity and purpose. Ascendant Imum Coli, the self-roots midpoint, represents the bridge between personality and foundation. Descendant midheaven, the partnership career midpoint, represents the bridge between relationship and achievement. Descendant Imum Coli, the partnership roots midpoint, represents the bridge between the other and the inner base. Angular midpoint amplification. So this text proposes that midpoint pictures involving angles receive a 1.5 times amplification factor compared to planet-planet midpoint pictures. That is, the effects of a midpoint picture involving an angle are approximately 50% more prominent in the native's life than a comparable picture involving only planets. Furthermore, when both source points are angles, for example the ascendant midheaven, the amplification factor is 2 times, making angle midpoints the most powerful midpoint structures in the chart. Alright. On to chapter 17, which is planet angle and planet fixed star midpoints. The full range of midpoint varieties extends beyond simple planet-to-planet combinations. This chapter covers the major categories of midpoint structures and their interpretive principles. So planet angle midpoints. When one source point is a planet and the other is an angle, the midpoint picture combines the archetypal energy of the planet with the structural life area significance of the angle. These are written as planet ascendant equals activation or planet midheaven equals activation. The interpretive principle is the planet's energy filtered through the angle's life arena finds expression through the activating body. So we have a chart here with the midpoint and interpretive theme. So for example, Sun ascendant is identity and vitality expressed through X in daily life. Moon ascendant, emotional nature and instincts expressed through X physically. Mercury ascendant, communication and mental processes expressed through X in the self. Venus ascendant, values, love and aesthetics expressed through X in appearance. Mars ascendant, drive and assertion expressed through X in physical action. Jupiter ascendant, expansion and growth expressed through X in the persona. Saturn ascendant, discipline and structure expressed through X in the body. Sun midheaven, identity and purpose expressed through X in career. Moon midheaven, emotional foundation expressed through X publicly. Mars midheaven, ambition and drive expressed through X in vocation. Jupiter midheaven, growth and meaning expressed through X in public life. Saturn midheaven, responsibility and authority expressed through X in career. Okay? Planet fixed star midpoints. Midpoints between planets and fixed stars are a less commonly used but potentially powerful technique. The fixed star contributes a specific mythological and symbolic character while the planet provides the archetypal energy. When a third body activates its midpoint, the combined energy of the planet and the star's mythology is expressed through the activating body. For example, Sun Regulus equals Jupiter. The solar identity combined with Regulus's theme of royal power and success is expressed through Jupiter's expansion and growth. This could indicate a person whose leadership and authority, Sun Regulus, finds its greatest expression through philosophical, educational, or philanthropic channels. It's Jupiter. Fixed star midpoint theory. Text proposes that fixed star midpoints operate on a different temporal scale than planet-planet midpoints. Because why? Fixed stars move very slowly, approximately 1 degree per 72 years due to precession. Their midpoint structures are generational rather than personal. A sun-star midpoint is shared by everyone born within a multi-year period. The personal specificity comes from the activating body, the natal planet or angle that falls on the midpoint. Thus, while the sun regolith midpoint may be at approximately the same degree for several years, it is only activated for those individuals who have a natal planet or an angle conjunct that degree. Orb for fixed star midpoints, 0.5 degrees for natal activation and 1 degrees for transit activation. Complete midpoint variety classification. All right. So we have our type, formula, nature, and orb. For example, the planet formula is AB equals A plus B divided by 2. Standard natal midpoint, orb of 1 degrees. And most of these are 1 degrees except for, as we see, the planet star, angle, midpoint, and then there isn't one specifically for aspect midpoint. So planet angle is A ascendant equals A plus ascendant divided by 2 personalized life arena at 1 degrees. Or planet midheaven is A/MC equals A plus MC divided by 2 vocational expression. Angle is ascendant/midheaven equals ascendant plus midheaven divided by 2 structural axes. And planet node A/N equals A plus node divided by 2 karmic evolutionary. Planet star A/star equals A plus star divided by 2 mythic archetypal. Star is S1/S2 equals S1 plus S2 divided by 2 generational mythic. Star angle star/ascendant equals star adding ascendant divided by 2 mythic incarnation. And when I say slash, I mean we're dividing, by the way. Midpoint. Alright, that's the AB, CD, meta midpoint original, and aspect midpoint is A plus B divided by 2 decanate of the aspect original. Okay? In my next video, we're going to go over the rest of these chapters, chapter 18 through 24, as well as the appendixes, and I hope to see you there with peace and love. Piscean out.